looking back on my career, I kind of wish I would have raced more types of cars a little bit throughout my career because obviously I kind of honed in on one thing and I was good with a wing and that was it. I wasn't with a darn without a wing. And I wish I kind of, would have drove a few more types of race cars just to see if I'd have been worth a darn or not.
Green flag in the air.
Everyone, welcome back to Hot Lapping with Landman. It is Thanksgiving week. Hope you guys all enjoy the holiday coming up. Today's show is going to be a lot of fun. I just want to let you know in advance, I'm doing my opening after the show because I thought I better touch on this. I had a couple technical difficulties during the show early on. We got those resolved, but we're going to see how good my editing skills are. So if it's a little jumbled up there for a second, I think we'll be able to do okay with it. But just want to let you know, first time ever, and Shane was a true warrior and hung in there for me, and we finally got everything rolling pretty good. So I just want to tell everybody, if you guys are enjoying my stuff, it's good to be back here on a regular basis. Give me a like, give me a follow, give me a subscribe. I would really enjoy it if you guys could help me out that way a little bit. And like I said, it helps me get better content for you folks too. We got Shane Stewart on this week. Shane has won a lot of big races in his career. The 1995 Kings Royal, five-time 360 Knoxville Nationals champ, and a lot of other cool stuff. He's now also the promoter over at Port City Raceway down in Oklahoma. So, like I was saying, let's not wait around. Let's get Shane in here and see what he's up to. All right, everyone, we got Shane Stewart on here, and Shane, I know everybody's busy getting ready for the holidays and all that good stuff. Thanks for joining us here on short notice, especially on the holiday week.
Elaine, thank you very much, buddy. I've been a huge admirer of your show, so I appreciate you having me.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. Maybe it's just the holiday spirit coming out a little bit, but who knows? I've had a lot of fun with it, and I tell you what, the guests are what have made my show so successful. I think I don't know. I shouldn't call it so successful. That sounds kind of arrogant, but I've definitely had a lot of fun with it. So excited to have you on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Real quick, I know you were busy. You were traveling. I think you said you went out to Portland, Oregon or something like that this last weekend, and a little bit of the business side of Shane Stewart going on there, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, so I've joined SIS, which is a sports insurance specialist. I've been fighting a crazy cough for like 3 weeks straight, so excuse me if I start coughing, but um, SIS insures my racetrack. They specialize in insurance just for racetracks around the country. And man, since I've owned Port City, I've had some crazy stuff happen at my track, and some stuff that I didn't really understand the whole insurance side of it. So I buckled down and got a couple of licenses, and in the midst of all that, they have a program called CAP, and it's Competitive Advantage Program is what it's called, and it's specialized for insurance for race car drivers. And so,
hang on, I just want to clarify that's for race car drivers, not the facilities. Then,
so what CAP is? It's a third tier policy. Accidental policy for race car drivers and mechanics. Like some mechanics have bought it themselves that actually work on the race cars. And what it is, it's a policy that just protects the drivers, and it costs just shy of $300, so it's like 279, 280. It gets you $500,000 in coverage. And how this policy works is typically when somebody gets hurt at a racetrack, it goes to their personal insurance first, and then it goes to the track or the series, and then this CAP program would kick in. You know, unfortunately, you don't ever want to think about having this type of policy, but every race car driver in this country needs it, and it's just an insurance policy, is all it is, and it's super cheap. Like I said, it gives you $500,000 in coverage. And anyway, so that's kind of a joint venture with SIS, and they hired me kind of part-time to start helping push the CAP program a little bit. And since I've only been doing this for about a year, We've got the World of Outlaws, we have the High Limit, we have Knoxville Raceway. I'm starting to venture into the modified side of things, which I don't know a lot of people in that world, but it's gaining a lot of traction. This program has been around for 2 or 3 years, but there's just so many people that don't know nothing about it. And the people that do know a little bit about it, they don't understand how it works. So they've brought me on to kind of help push that program, and this is kind of the heavy part of the year for meetings with track owners around the country. Portland, with Warpa was one of them. We're getting ready to go to the PRI, of course, but right before that, we go to oh man, where the heck am I getting ready to go? It's kind of one uh, trade show after another leading up to the PRI, and then we got a few months off, and then we go down to Florida for that show. So it's a busy time for everybody.
I just want to ask one follow-up question there, and we're not going to dive real deep into it. I'm sure we could talk about that for an hour itself, but what's a timeline? Say a driver gets injured, say a driver gets injured. Does he have to wait for the process of the track insurance, the series insurance, and all that to go through before that kicks in? Or,
Yeah,
is it a long waiting process?
it's typically not a long waiting process. No. Obviously it takes a little bit on the insurance side with anything.
Yeah.
And as anybody that's ever dealt with insurance, whether it's your house or car or whatever it might be, it takes a little bit of time. But the reassurance side of it is, if you do get hurt, that, just for an example, say you get hurt at a high limit race. High limit has $500,000 in coverage. So you would have $1 million in accidental policy. Another 500,000 on top of the high limit series, and same with the World of Outlaws. So, it's not, like I said, it's not something that most of the drivers think about. But when I raced professionally, I made sure that I was insured the right way, because I didn't want, if I'm laid up in the hospital bed and I can't talk or can't walk or something like that, I just didn't want my family to have to worry about it. So I was insured up to the gill. Of course, I paid for that, but this policy is less than $300.
Yep.
And the big drivers that drive up and down the road with their motorhome, they do that every time they put gas in their vehicle to pull their t-shirt trailer or whatever it might be. And it's a great policy. It's super easy to sign up for. All you got to do is to go to competitiveadvantageprogram.com, and it's a great website. We just got it redone, and it's easy to fill out, and everyone should have it.
Does that cover you away from the racetrack also?
No, just at the racetrack.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? And that's cool. That's really good information. Something that I didn't even know we were going to talk about. But like you said, it covers non-drivers also. So if you're at the racetrack, and I know Brett Marks guys got hurt here a couple years ago in the work area. So
Yep.
something like that, nobody's immune to getting hurt at the racetracks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Shane Stewart. We know you're a promoter at Port City, and we know you were a very accomplished sprint car driver for many years out there. Usually what I do, and you've probably seen the drill, so you kind of know, but let's talk just a little bit about the young child, the young lad, Shane Stewart, 7 years old. What caught your eye? What got you enticed with, hey, I want to go around in circles here?
Well, my dad raced at Tulsa Speedway, and at that time, Tulsa Speedway was a breeding ground for like a lot of really good drivers. Jackie Howerton, Emmett Hahn, Ray Crawford. There was a plethora of really good race car drivers that were racing around the Tulsa Speedway area at the time. And, 10, 12,000 people would come to the events every Saturday night at the fairgrounds, which was it's actually the old fairgrounds track that my dad raced at is adjacent to the expo building, which is where the shootout and chili bowl is. It's now a horse track, but yeah. So my dad raced. He raced modified street stocks, anything that he could afford, and so my dad. A lot of people don't know, but my dad was a professional golfer, and some things kind of happened. The course he was working at was owned by an individual, and he ended up passing away. And then the city got involved with the golf course, and it things went sideways. So my dad ended up buying a parts store called Car and Fleet, and my dad has ran that parts store with my mom for 50 years. And in the middle of all that, when O'Reilly's and all those people started coming into town, he had switched over to more or less a speed shop. And he was the first dealer for Gambler outside of Hendersonville, Tennessee. My dad was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A lot of people don't know that either, but
No.
the racing genes have been in my family for a long time. I had a brother, Darren, that raced for a short period of time with the ASCS, and he was smart and got a good education, and now works at Chesapeake Energy Company. But it's just been in our family blood. I started racing when I was 7, quarter midgets, and then moved up into micros and did the micro thing for a little while, and then our good friend Andy Hillenberg was kind enough to put together a sprint car for me, and the rest is history.
Well, let's jump back here just a little bit because obviously you had to have a place to race your your quarter midgets and your micros, which is something we're going to talk about that you're still participating in to this day. But where was the go-to place for the younger kids back then?
So we raced at Tulsa Quarter Midget Association, and it's still going strong. There's still a lot of kids that currently race there. You know, between the Quarter Midget Association and then the local micro tracks around the country, that's the breeding ground for the young kids to learn how to race, and it's been great to watch some of these kids progress up the ladder and become professional race car drivers. And I was fortunate enough to race with Darren Pittman and his brother Derek, and to have a couple of us make it professionally out of our group back in the day. That's kind of unheard of, really. So, but we raced called Region 6. It was Topeka, Kansas, Austin, San Antonio, Tulsa, of course. And then we did that for a little while, and then we jumped into the micros. And at the time, Emmett Hahn had Creek County. Creek County was a small track when he first built it, and I raced out there till I jumped into a sprint car.
Speaking of some people that may have come through those ranks, I just want to throw out a couple names. Maybe Christopher Bell. Was he ever down in that
Yep.
association?
Yeah, obviously Christopher was way behind me, but
Yeah.
the track that I own now at Port City, Christopher kind of cut his teeth there and at I-44 Speedway, which is in Oklahoma City, which is still around as well. So between those two tracks, Christopher Bell cut his teeth there. Brady Bacon, same. Darren Pittman.
Ryan
There's been
Timms, maybe.
Ryan Timms
Yeah.
raced a lot of city. Yeah, there's here's the thing, I tell people all the time, and parents, and I don't this isn't just because I own Port City, but Port City teaches people how to race. Like, it's tight. There's a lot that goes on around Port City, and it literally teaches people how to work traffic. As an owner of that track now, I hold that pretty dear to my heart because it teaches kids how to race.
So you get into this big sprint car, and tell me about your first, whether it was a 360 or a 410. How did you get into that? You said obviously Andy Hillenberg helped you out a little bit.
I actually have a really funny story. So Andy's got a really nice piece of property there in Broken Arrow, and first time I went to start his sprint car, he took a year off to do some business stuff with his dad, and so I literally just jumped into one of his outlaw cars. Well, he was, and my dad as well, but like we didn't ever went to the racetrack without me working on my race car, whether it was the quarter midget or the micro, and then obviously that led into the sprint car deal with Andy. But so we put together this car, and at the time you could get the hoses mixed up on your power steering, and they were crossed and we didn't know it. But so I go to start this car and I can't turn it. It turns to the left, but it won't turn back to the right. And I about crash it in Andy's parking lot in his driveway. And he's like, "What in the heck is going on here?" And I'm thinking, dude, I'm not strong enough to even turn this thing. So he wedges himself into my seat, and he starts it. And of course, it doesn't turn back to the right. So I'm like, whew, thank goodness here.
Yeah.
I'm dodged a bullet. But anyway, so we get this car all fixed, and we go to Creek County. At that time, Creek County was a bigger track, and I had my dad, Andy Hillenberg, and Kenny Woodruff, and they were all three there at my first test in a
Not a
sprint
bad
car.
crew.
Not a bad crew, but of course, both Andy and Kenny were pretty honest with me, as they were throughout my whole career. But we left that test that day, and with some promising. I made some good laps, as Mr. Woodruff would say. And so then that was like 1992.
Yep.
I ran a little bit at Tulsa Speedway, which had a really strong 410 program at the time, and I ran Andy's car the whole next year, pretty much the whole next year, and then my dad kind of bought some stuff from him, and we started our own team, and then I traveled just a little bit, like when the Outlaws would come around, Tulsa, Devil's Bowl, and a few
Oklahoma
places.
City, maybe.
Yeah, OKC. We made all those races. Back in the day, we used to go Devil's Bowl, and then we'd race Oklahoma City in the daytime on
Yeah.
Sunday. Made all those races and did everything that we could, financially do. And then, let me see, 99, 2000, I caught the eye of Junior Holbrook, and I jumped into his car, and I mean, if it wasn't for Junior, I wouldn't have made it professionally, honestly. Like he gave me my first shot. He believed in me, and I was in his car for a minute, and then out of it, and then back in it, and that's really what kicked off my career. And I was really lucky. I was fortunate. I raced professionally from 2000 to when I retired a few years ago.
Expand on the in and out with Junior. And I still, the 8H car for some reason is the car that I initially associate Shane Stewart with. I mean, there were times where you guys would get on a run and you were just blazing fast.
Oh man, that car was crazy fast. So I ran it the first year with him with Gum Out. Gum Out. I was just talking to somebody the other day. The first year that the Gum Out series was around, I'm telling you, it was tough. It had myself, Craig Delansky, Paul McMahon, Jeff Shepard, and if I remember right, I think Craig Delansky ended up winning the championship that year. But that first year of Gum Out, there was a lot of really good cars, and of course, I got my teeth kicked in. And then Junior wasn't really sure what he was going to do. He had a couple of cars, myself and Randy Hannigan and Dean Jacobs was in and out, and so I didn't have a job at the start of. It actually might have been 2000. So I went to go work for Andy Hillenberg, and we went on the road, and I worked on Andy's car till about May or maybe early June, and Junior called me again, and he'd had a few drivers in and out of his car, and nothing worked out. So, of course, I stayed in contact with him. I'm like, listen, I just need another shot. I promise I won't let you down. I've learned out here on the road that I don't want to be a mechanic. I want to be a race car driver. And of course, he gave me another shot. And I think we end up winning like my second or third race out on the Gum Out series. And I end up winning my first outlaw race late in the year at Talladega. We backed it up the next night or the next weekend at Devil's Bowl. We won an outlaw race there. And then I raced for Junior for 2 or 3 years after that. And then things kind of fell apart financially, and jumped in the 4M of Scott Chilcutt and raced with Scott Chilcutt and Rob Hart for a few years. And then that led into Rudine. And then I was with Kevin for a couple years, and I've had a lot of car owners, but a lot of good ones.
Yeah. So 2003 was a pretty good year for you guys, and I'm pretty sure you were with the Chillicothe, or however you pronounce his name, the 4M car, the old
Yeah,
Glory number
hmm
4M, and you were the Mr. Sprint car for Southern Iowa Speed Week winner. And
yeah,
for people that don't know what that is, I think back then they didn't even have the Cappy Classic, but they had a 360 tournament of the champions or something race back then, I think. And then they had
yeah.
Oskaloosa, and then they had the Knoxville Nationals. Does that sound right? I'm guessing myself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there was of course, it started with the 360 Nationals and then led into the 410 races that week as well. I think there was 4 or 5 events or something, but I actually won that a couple times.
Oh, I see. I wasn't aware of that. I just had this one down. So, yeah. And then I know you did some stuff out west too. 2007 Northwest Sprint Challenge Speed Week champion, and that got you propelled into the Roth ride for 2008.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so I ran with the Doyle's Harley Davidson car.
Yes, and that's the one I have written down here. I was
Oh,
wanting to get to
well,
that.
we'll go back a little bit. So I actually met Paul Silva at Lazowski's shop. He was working on Danny's car at the time, and we had a golf tournament. And there was a couple of us drivers that stayed at Danny's shop, and he was helping Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr was the crew chief for Lazowski at the time, and Paul was pretty quiet and kind of to himself, and we chit chatted a little bit in the shop when he was tinkering on Danny's car, and Jimmy was like, "Yeah, Paul pretty much put this whole car together by himself," and everybody knows at that time like Danny's cars were top notch,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Dang man, this kid knows what he's doing," and he was super young then, and he was even young when I raced with him, but that was my introduction to Paul, and so I was in between rides, and Paul said, "Hey, listen, I'm started this team with Roger Crockett and myself and Roger and the Doyles. I kind of had a going out party or whatever you might say. So I've got a vacant seat if you want to come out here and race a few races out here out west." And we did, and we did really well together. I mean, just straight off the bat, we were really fast, and that obviously led into a few more races with Doyle's and led into the next year. And we were actually planning on running the full ASCS tour with Doyle's.
What year? Hey, let's
Uh,
jump back. What year is this, Shane? Just so I know what we're talking about. Do you remember?
and well, that would have been after Beef Packers. So
Okay. Yeah,
I'm trying to throw
2009.
all
Yep.
together in my head too because I was in between a lot of rides.
Yeah.
Beef Packers was probably around 2008 or 2009.
That was 8.
Uh,
I have that jotted down here with my notes. Yep.
yeah, so my Beef Packer resume isn't very very good. We struggled a little bit. I was in between crew chiefs, and as everybody knows, Dennis is pretty tough, and we had a ton of rainouts that year. So we actually, Dennis is like, "You guys need to come back to the West Coast and race some races out here." And we showed up at Chico, and we qualified terrible, and ended up getting our teeth kicked in at a local race. And Dennis pretty much fired us all on the spot. But we got back to the shop, and he's like, I think I'm gonna just let you hang on here for a little bit." So I did, and it was just barely hanging on. And we actually did okay at the Knoxville Nationals that year. And we had some good runs, but we just had a lot of just bad luck. We were racing really well at I think it was either Kings Royal or Historical Big One, going to have a great finish, and had a blowout. And of course, it junked a car. And I mean, that whole year was just a big thorn in my side. Well, anyway, we go back out west for the outlaw races after the Nationals, and Dennis kind of informed me that he was going to let me go. So I ended up jumping back into the Doyle's car after that to finish that year off. So
So you had been with the
uh,
Doyles before that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just and then I jumped in the Beef Packers, did that, and then got back with the Doyles, and yeah, that led into Paul and I racing together for 4 or 5 years, winning a couple ASCS championships, doing obviously really well at Knoxville, and yeah, I've had a great career, but it's been a Mod Podge mess.
Well, and you know what? But that's okay because I don't know, things to me, and I was, I lived that era also, Shane. So things were different back then too. It seems to me like there was a lot more movement sometimes among drivers and crew chiefs than there
Yeah,
than there is now. But back then, a midseason changes weren't like totally mind blowing. And I think maybe the
right.
fact that social media was not around back then too, people didn't even know what was happening sometimes until these rigs pulled in with new drivers. So a little bit of
That's
that. But you
that's
said you had a little bit of success at Knoxville. I'm going to call BS on that. You had a lot of success at Knoxville, especially with Paul Silva. 5 360 Nationals titles. And also the first year, I think that, or no, the second year you won your 360 nationals titles, which was 2010, you run third in the Knoxville Nationals too.
Yeah.
I call that a lot of success at Knoxville.
Yeah, well, so my Knoxville, um, and I've told several people this, so year 2000, was the first year that I made the nationals, right? I made the A main in Junior Holbrook's car, and, Lazowski laps me pretty quick. I must have started towards the back of the field. I know I did because I was in the B. Um, so Lazowski laps me, and I don't know what it was, but I followed him for, I mean, the races weren't 50 laps back then, obviously. I think they were 30.
Yep.
Um, and I followed him for 12, 13 laps. And after that race, I pulled in and I told my crew chief, Craig, um, I'm like, I just figured out how to run the bottom at Knoxville Nationals. And it was a game changer for me. And every year after that, I just had this different mindset going into that place, and that was just a changing moment for me. And we did have some success at Knoxville, and I'm disappointed that I never won the Knoxville Nationals, but there was throughout my career there was legitimately probably 4 or 5 times um, that I had a great shot at winning that race, and for some weird reason it just didn't work out for me. But with running there with Paul, and then going into the Larson Marks car and all the success we had there with them, Knoxville was just a special place for me. I enjoyed going there. I always had a different outlook on the Knoxville Nationals and 360 Nationals, especially with Paul. Paul and I, we got ourselves up and down the road with what we earned with the car, and that's how we fed ourselves. And Knoxville was always a game changer as far as financially to help us get through the rest of the summer. And I always had a set goal of how much I wanted to make, and that goal was 100 grand. And I didn't reach it all the time, but we reached it a couple times with Paul, with the 10 days of the 360 race, and then leading into the Knoxville Nationals. So, um, yeah, Knoxville is one of my better tracks.
I want to jump back and follow up on following Danny Lasowski for however many laps you said it was after he lapped you pretty early. What was it that you learned on how to run Knoxville?
I think it was just more entry. I always felt like I couldn't enter the right way, and when he lapped me, um, I don't remember aero being such a big issue back then, and I literally stayed within 2 car lengths of him, and he was ripping by guys. I think I ended up running like 10th or 11th. I mean, he lapped up to, and I was lucky that there wasn't any cautions, but he lapped up to like 7th or 8th that year. He was flying, and I don't know. It just my timing was off. The way I trail braked and the way I got through the center of the corner was way jacked up. And as soon as he lapped me, no, I think it was just a game changer for me. And it's still to present to this day. Like if you can run the bottom with speed, you can win a lot of races there. And just what I learned following him, and there was nobody better than Danny, running the bottom of that racetrack. So I had it all messed up, and that day I was a quick study, and it changed my whole aspect of how I raced Knoxville, and it worked out okay for me. I didn't win the Knoxville Nationals, but there was a period of a few years there that we were knocking on the door.
Definitely. And I think you've made like 19 A mains or something like that, a huge number. So that obviously tells me that you actually did get Knoxville figured out, because you don't just make that many Saturday night A mains at the Nationals by just going in and drawing a pill.
No, you don't. And listen, I was fortunate to go there with really good cars too that were capable of winning the races, and that helped a ton too. And always went there with good motors and good cars and good crew chiefs, and all that made a big difference.
Yep. So I want to jump to, and I know we've jumped around here a little bit, just so everybody knows, I'm having major technical difficulties here tonight on my end. Shane has been a trooper. I have been buzzed out of my own place like 8 times. I had to switch to the AirPods because it was obviously something in my microphone or my earphones. I don't know. First time disaster, but if you guys have made it this far in the podcast, keep listening. It's going to be okay. So
Yeah,
so Shane, and I know we've jumped around quite a bit too, but 2020, you get an opportunity to join the back then it was, I want to say it was Larson Marks racing team, the number 2 team. And that was a pretty big deal back then.
that was a game changer for me. Obviously, I'd raced for Paul for a few years, and then I was kind of in between rides. I drove for Bernie a few times with the 71, and was bouncing around from ride to ride. And I actually met Kyle Larson when I raced with Paul in the 57. We obviously raced a lot on the West Coast, and Kyle was just getting started, and I caught his eye somehow. And so Justin Marks ends up reaching out to Kyle, or I don't know how it all started. I think Kyle may have reached out to him, but um, Kyle said, there's really nobody else that I'd put in my race car besides Shane Stewart. And so Justin gives me a call, and I didn't know who Justin Marks was. Had no idea. And so I fly to Charlotte and meet him, and he takes me to his go-kart place, and I'm like, man, this place is no joke. Like, this go-kart place is like top notch. And we ended up putting together a deal, and right out of the gate, Steve Succi and Bob Curtis, and Andrew Siemens, they worked their butts off, because I mean the team started from scratch, and Steve and them put together a really good, solid program. And I think our first race was Port Royal, and I don't even remember what kind of race it was. I think it was just a local. I don't remember. I don't think it was a big race, but we almost win it. And I've never been worth a darn at Port Royal, so I knew our future was bright. And the first year was just a limited schedule. I think we ran like 40 or 50 races, and then we jumped into the outlaw deal and ran second to your good old buddy Donnie. At that time, Donnie was
Hey,
the
he's
man.
everybody's buddy these days, isn't he now?
He was on his A game then, and I think I had my best year ever, and he still beat us by 150 points or something crazy in the at the end of the year. But um, we won Kings Royal, and we ran well at the Knoxville Nationals, and ran well at Williams Grove, which I wasn't worth a darn there. And we just had a really good, solid team, and had a solid team for 4 or 5 years there. But um, Justin just got to the point where it wasn't really making any sense to him, and sponsorship wasn't really working out like him and Kyle had kind of thought. So Kyle kind of bought the team, and Paul ran it for a little while. And then I think I was in it for about a year, half a year maybe. And then they ended up putting Carson Macedo in it. But it was a period of my career what I needed that, right? I needed that boost. They gave me a great opportunity, and I end up winning the most of my outlaw features in that short period of time, like 20 something or almost 30. So it was just a good, solid team. We had good people around us, and Justin obviously grew from that, and his story is unreal, what he's accomplished to date. But it was a great ride for me.
I want to jump back to 2015, the Kings Royal, and talk about one of the, what do you want to call it, the prestige races of the year to win, and talk just a little bit about that weekend going into it. Because I don't know, was Steve still racing back then? You've got a few of the names that come out, and I don't know that you've won a lot at Eldora, so probably one of those cool surprise winners. Probably not in your mind because you guys are running good, but talk just a little bit about that weekend of Shane Stewart winning the Kings Royal.
Yeah, so I'd had a little bit of success at Knoxville. I always loved. I'm sorry, at Eldora.
Okay.
One of my better tracks. and I'd had some success there with Holbrook and my other cars that I've driven, and we'd won a few outlaw races, and we won the night before. We won the night before the King's Royal, and the crazy thing about that night was it rained. It rained till, oh my gosh, I think the A main rolled off at 4 o'clock in the morning. And of course, the format there for the King's Royal is pretty wild. We set quick time, or I was second quick or something. I don't remember, but we were up there. And of course, you got to run top three to make it to the A. And I just barely got in, like just barely. I think I ended up passing the third place car coming to the checkered or white flag lap or something. So I started 14th, and the track had some grip to it, and my car was just really good that weekend. I mean, it was just one of those weekends that if we didn't win that race, we did something on our end to make it not happen. But we ended up going through the field pretty quickly, and we got to Donnie, and it was a pretty long race. The air was obviously pretty good, and we were trucking along there, and I was catching Donnie, and then he ended up running out of gas, and so the red comes out for a fuel stop, and I think there was like 4 or 5 laps to go, and we end up checking out and winning. But obviously, one of the biggest races of my career, and at that time in my racing status, like I was uh ready to win a big race like that. I mean, I'd been so close so many times of doing things at certain racetracks, and just never did work out for me. And I could never wrap my head around it. And to finally get one of those crown jewels was really special.
Going back to that race, you said you were closing on Donnie, and forget that it's Donnie. You're closing on the leader. And something I want to ask you about just kept popped into my mind as we were talking about here. This is 2015 versus where we're at 2025. Do you think air was different with the wings and the cars back then, where you could race better with those? Because, like I said, you see most races these days, the leader takes off, and whoever it is, he's going to check out until he gets to lap traffic. Do you feel like the cars were more maneuverable, in good air or bad air back then?
I think they were. I mean, my whole throughout my whole career, I went through tire changes and wing changes and compound changes and from Goodyear to Hoosier. And honestly, in my mind, I felt like the racing was the best when we ran Goodyear tires. I know they had some struggles there for a little while, but the last year that we were all on Goodyears, we had several winners that started in the back. And I mean, I remember Jason Myers winning Charlotte from like 23rd or 24th
Yeah.
that year. It just was a
Yeah.
common thing to be able to pass. So I think I think it was a combination of a lot of things, but it was definitely easier to navigate through traffic. It was easier to race behind cars, and I don't really know what that's due to. I don't know if it was the tires or the dished wings or a combination of everything. But and honestly, back then the cars just weren't locked down like they are now. I mean, the shocks weren't what they are today. Back then the shocks were just getting, talked about, where it was just it hadn't really become a big game changer. And not everybody was a professional shock guy back then, right? And like now
Yeah.
all the crews take their shocks apart and redo them themselves. And you just didn't have that back then. And shock dynos and trailers weren't a common thing. So I just think everybody's gotten a lot smarter. And I think the cars, I mean, I even see it in the micro world. This cars are just locked down more. So to answer your question, I don't know if you go back and tell everybody, hey, listen, you got to go buy a Pro Shock out of the box and put it on, right? And go back to a dish wing and see how good everybody is. That might be a game changer. But
Yeah.
it was definitely easier to pass back then, for sure.
So 2018, and you're probably going to be like, really, you want to talk about this? But I just happen to remember because I went in there the next day. I watched your deal, and then I was able to go to You tried non-wing racing once over in Lawrenceburg, and probably not the result you wanted. Qualifying, but had you run non-wing stuff back in the past, and what enticed you guys to give it a whirl that night?
I had, and the funny story, Lanny, is like, so when I was with 4M, they had this deal where you ran the little track in Memphis on Saturday night, non-wing, and then on Sunday we ran the big track with the Silver Crown cars. I'd never ran non-wing sprint car before in my life. I'd ran a couple midget races, but nothing major. So I go out, same thing, crashing in qualifying. And my crew chief, Rob, at the time, Rob Hart, he's like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, you have to let off. Like, you're going way too fast without a wing. So at the time, it was a USAC race. You could go out last. You only got one lap, but wherever you qualified, that's where you stood. And so we scrambled, got the car back together. And I go out and I set quick, or first or second quick. I was up there somewhere. And so I come back in, and Rob's like, dude, what are you doing? You have to slow down. You're going way too fast. You're going to crash again. Well, I ended up leading that race till like 2 or 3 laps ago. And I think Corey Kruisman ended up passing me and winning. Um, so fast forward to my race at Lawrenceburg. They had a little bonus, and I blame my buddies for all this because they told me I didn't air on my ass if I didn't take the wing off. And the sad thing about it is we had just won the Outlaw race the night before. It was our Kings Royal winning car. Like, that car was just a really fast car. And so I had Matt Hummel and my guys, and my car was prepared the right way. It had the right front axle in it, and we had wheel offsets the right way, and I just flat messed up. And, I kind of kicked myself in the butt a little bit because I know I would have raced okay that night, the way it all, panned out. And I just flat didn't turn quick enough. And of course, ended up crashing the car and felt like a dummy more than anything. But I, I wish I would have, looking back on my career, I kind of wish I would have raced more types of cars a little bit throughout my career, because obviously I kind of honed in on one thing, and I was good with a wing, and that was it. I wasn't worth a darn without a wing. And I wish I kind of, would have drove a few more types of race cars just to see if I'd have been worth a darn or not. But yeah, that wasn't a very proud moment of me at Lawrenceburg.
Well, my viewers are probably going to say, you mean you brought that up when you talked to Shane? But it was just, I know it was a big news thing. And the only reason I was browsing through, I would do homework on my guests, trying to act like I know what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
even though I remember a lot of the stuff. And that one just kind of kept popping up. And I'm like, because I think we had to race a World of Outlaw show there the next day too, then, didn't we?
Oh no, I don't remember. I don't remember how the schedule ended up working, but we had a few days off to try to get the car put back together. But we had ran there the night before.
Okay.
I think it was a Monday. Because I think we ran Charlotte, and then we always ran there Monday for Labor Day, and then that USAC race was the next night. And yeah, we had a few more days to get our
Okay.
act together.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, people probably beat me up for it, but yeah, and I just remember that I remember the part of somebody, now that you brought it up, was the part of somebody saying you don't got a hair on your rear end if you don't run the non-wing deal. If you want to name names, now's the time to go ahead and do
I blame my buddies. It's all their fault.
it. I understand. So 2018, unfortunately, the Larson deal kind of, split, however it happens. But you get an opportunity in 2019 to race with Barry and Chad Clements with the CJB car, and talk a little bit about that. If they're, I know that it got tough at the end with it, but a good team to have an opportunity with.
Yeah, it was just a tough year for us. Me and Barry just kind of butted heads a little bit not outside the car, just
Yeah.
just sometimes drivers and crew chiefs just don't see eye to eye on how to do things with the car, and I take a lot of that on my shoulders. At that point in my career, I was pretty stubborn and wanted a certain feel in the race car, and I wasn't getting it, and it just made for a long year. And kudos to Chad for not canning me in the middle of the season because he could have very easily because at one point of our year that car was just out there making laps and we were a mid pack team and we shouldn't have been. And yeah, he allowed us to finish the year and um I was thankful for that because I mean, that's how we make our living, right? Whether it's good nights or bad nights, we still try to race as hard as we can. And but it was a tough year for the whole group, and it was probably my shortest stint in any of the cars that I was in my career, and I was pretty bummed and disappointed with how that whole thing ended, and it just led me into thinking, okay, where do I go from here, right? Like, I mean, I'm not getting any younger. I felt like the sport was starting to change a little bit. You start seeing more and more people bringing sponsorship to teams, and young kids coming in with mom and dad's money taking these rides over, and I didn't have any of that. I had a little bit of sponsorship here and there that I could bring to teams, but it wasn't anything that was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's kind of
Yeah.
what you see. So I ended up leaving the five team and jumping in with Bernie, and we raced as much as we possibly could with Bernie. I mean, I felt like I probably worked really hard with Bernie's car because everybody knows that his priority is his speed shop. It's not always, and we had some success. We were pretty fast everywhere we went, and that lasted for a couple years. And then I was at the point in my career where I was getting tired of being on the road all the time. My family wasn't with me as much as they were. Nixon had started school, and just I just lost its vibe for me. And I remember in 2001, I was in Andy's motorhome in Charlotte, and he hung up the phone with Deanne. I can't remember the whole story, but I think one of his kids were playing baseball, and he hung up the phone, and it was raining, and we were waiting for the rain to stop. And he said, "I'm going to be done racing this year," and I'm like, "What?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "This is it. I'm done." So he was done. He Vegas was our last race that year, and he never stepped foot in a race car again. So of course, fast forward to the end of my career, and because I'd had conversations with him a few times about that, like, how do you know? How do you know when it's time to call it quits? And he said, "Trust me." He said, "You'll know," and I did. And I was fortunate to be successful and have a good career and win some big races, drive for some great teams, and on my terms, not from being hurt or something like that. So I just chalked it up as, you know what, I think it's time for me to go seek something else.
Okay, so I want to say, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I was kind of reading. 2020 was when you actually announced your retirement. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. And that was the year of the pandemic, which was kind of an odd year for everybody because I think you were supposed to start like with 10 races with Roth again that year, and all those got canceled because of the pandemic. Is that
that's
right?
right. Yeah, no, I,
Okay.
I actually was in California, and then everything started getting canceled, and we were actually nervous that I wasn't going to get home. And yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that would
right.
have been in March. Yep. Or probably your February
Uh,
or March.
That's right. I actually forgot about that, Lanny. Yeah, I was going to race for Roth a few times,
Okay.
and that all
So
get
then, yeah, and then you end up with Bernie, and I think you guys ran like a lot of the Outlaw Tour that year.
we did. Yeah, we did. And honestly, like we were in contention to win a lot of big races. Like we set quick time or actually a new track record at Williams Grove and won a preliminary night there. And it was one of the few times that I felt like I had a legitimate shot at winning the National Open and was leading and broke a drive shaft. And we had a really fast race car, and Bernie had great engines with Charlie Garrett, and at anywhere we went, we were fast. We were in contention to win.
And then that year, I don't know if you'd call it. To me, I would call it a badge of honor or something that you would say is very respected. David Gravel was running the JJR car that year, and he also had a NASCAR late model, some sort of commitment that year, and he had to go race that, and they called you in to sub into the JJR 41 car, which was one of the top two or three fastest cars in the country once again. And I
Yeah,
think that was at Lakeside, if I'm right, but I'm not 100% sure.
that's
And
correct.
and you even won the first night in that thing.
We did. Yeah, that car was crazy fast. It
Talk a little bit about how you got hooked up into that deal and how that all kind of went together.
Yeah, well, obviously, everybody kind of knows my history with Jason. You know, we were really good buddies, and our families were really close. And I was one of them guys that I didn't really have many friends on the road. Like we were kind of to ourselves, and didn't really hang out with people. And our kids kind of brought our families together more or less. You know, Nixon became buddies with Jax, and we ended up sharing a t-shirt trailer together for a couple years. And um so obviously Philip and I had become, buddies through our friendship with Jason and Jason's family. And we ended up staying at a campground, a KOA in Pennsylvania every time we went out there with our motorhomes. And I became really good buddies with all of Jason's sponsors. And we just became kind of a tight-knit family. And of course, after Jason's passing, Philip and I became, remained good buddies, and we obviously raced with each other every night. And I was surprised that they called me, to be honest. I mean, I wasn't in a full-time ride, so it was kind of easy for me to tell Bernie, hey, look, I'm going to go right and run the 41 for a weekend. And it was probably it was by far one of my biggest wins. It was an honor to drive the car to begin with. Um, and then to win at Lakeside was a huge deal for me. And that was honestly, after that night, that was another thing. I told my wife Jen, I'm like, I I feel like I've had a full circle moment in my career. And if I had to end what I was doing today, I'm going to be happy. So uh, it was a special win for me, for sure.
Was Bobby there that night by any chance?
I don't think she was. Well, you know what? She might have been. I know in our victory lane photo, she wasn't in that, so she might not. She might have had somebody actually helping her do the t-shirt trailer or something. But
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think Bobby was there.
yeah. That's just a cool memory and a cool opportunity that nobody can ever take that away from you. That not only did you get the phone call, but you actually went out and were able to win in that car.
Yeah, and like I said, that car was unreal. We ended up having some bad luck the next night at Lake of the Ozarks for the JJR Classic race. And we had a good run going that night, and ended up blowing a tire or something. But it was
I think
that
the track had a lot of character that night too, didn't it? If that's
it,
right.
it did, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And here's the thing: I always told Jason when him and Philip were racing, I'm like, Jason, you just need to keep your mouth shut. Like, you just need to let Philip do his thing, and you need to just drive. Like, you need to go worry about your bus. And we had numerous conversations about this, and Jason was really hands on about everything.
yeah.
And we had several conversations. I'm like, Philip's smarter than you're giving him credit for. Like, you just need to let him do his job, and you show up and drive, and then go work on your motorhome. And but Philip he's a great mechanic.
Oh, I think the world of that guy, definitely. I know that you jumped around, not jumped around, but the I noticed in I want to say like 21 and 23, you ran some races with Bernie again. And
Yeah,
obviously, people that don't know Bernie Steuben, and if I'm pronouncing that name wrong, you got to help me because I've always struggled with that one. But
yeah.
Bernie from Indy Race Parts over in Indianapolis Speedway, um, that guy does so much for just the racing community. And obviously, you two must have had a great friendship for you guys to able to always get together and seem like never miss a beat, be really fast right away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Bernie was a game changer for me earlier on in my career. And he was just one of those guys that I could call up when I didn't have much going on. and was either looking for a job or had some off weekends, and I could jump in his car and be competitive. And that's just due to him having good stuff. And Bernie's a great mechanic. Like, he's good on the wrenches, and he's one of those guys that is really good at listening to what the drivers need and want. And there was very few nights that we weren't very fast in that car. And like I said, I mean, with my last year kind of in that car, so I raced with him quite a few races, and then end up getting involved with Port City, and then the million to win race comes up, and I'm like, Bernie, I'm like, it's been 2 years
Yeah.
since I car. So we put together a few races before Eldora. My first race back was at I-70, and Laney, it was hotter than freaking Dickens, right? And so I qualify well, end up drawing the pole for the dash. I lead this darn race till a couple laps ago, and Brownie passes me. Brian passes me with a couple laps
Yeah.
to go, and so we have a couple weeks off. We go to Lake of the Ozarks for a Power I race, and we end up winning that race. And I'm like, dude, this is like riding a bike. Like, this is a piece of. And then we go to Eldora, or no, I'm sorry. We go to the Brad Doty Classic, and we run 10th. We go to Eldora, and I'm sitting on the pole of the preliminary main and have a brake line break. And I'm thinking, man, I was starting next to Rico. And I'm like, if I go into turn one and crash Rico, this place is gonna burn Bernie's rig down, right? And I kind of panicked because I didn't know what to do. And so I pull in, and they try to get it fixed, and we can't. And so that kind of kills our whole weekend for the million. And then
Was that a points based deal where the preliminary night was important?
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
We ended up making the A main, but we weren't in contention to win. But I felt like we had a great car. And so Sunshine breaks his back, and uh I can't remember how it all worked out, but Bernie was going to put Macri in his car for the Nationals, and then they ended up putting Macri in Sunshine's car. So I ended up doing Knoxville, which was my final race that I ever ran in a sprint car, and I didn't make the A main, and I was bummed. And of course, my wife's like, "I don't know what you expected. You come in here and you haven't raced with these guys all year long. You're just not going to come in and beat them." But it was my first A main that I hadn't made since I've been going to that race. So it's since 2000. So I was pretty bummed, and that was it. That was the
Well,
last time I raced.
2000 wasn't actually a Knoxville Nationals, so it doesn't matter there
True,
because that's
true.
what I noticed was even in 2021, you ran 9 events and you still made the A main at the Knoxville Nationals and basically
Yeah,
hadn't sat in a race car but a couple times. And then
yeah,
23 was like I said, the first time I noticed that you had never made an A main at the
yeah.
Nationals. Eighth in the B main, even looked it up. So in contention, but just not quite there.
Right.
Um, so that's the last competitive lap you've turned in a sprint car
Hmm.
that where it gets us current right now.
That's right. Yeah.
So if Bernie calls you and says, Shane, let's go run a 6-8 race series, what's your answer going to be?
No, no.
I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah, here's the thing. So since we bought Port City, our weekends are full. Like, our schedule starts in first of March, and we race all the way through October. And I don't miss it. Which is kind of hard for some people to think about, but I don't, or I guess believe, but I'm so busy doing other things now. That I don't think about it. I've never sat in my living room other than what these darn races pay, right? I feel like
Yeah.
I retired too soon from what these races pay, but I've never sat in my living room and watched an outlaw race or a high limit race and said, man, I wish I was there racing. So it was it was just good timing for me to end my career. the previous owners that owned Port City, they were, you know, thinking about selling, but wasn't 100% sure. And of course, I reached out to them, and they said, yeah, the track's for sale. And one thing kind of led to another thing there. And we end up, my wife and I and Kevin Rudine ended up being owners of Port City Raceway.
Just real quick, and then we're going to jump on to Port City. But as a driver that had so much vested in the winged sprint cars for many, many years of your life, do you still find yourself paying attention to what's happening in the winged world, or are you too busy to even really kind of keep up on that? Who's hot, who's not, the big breaking news and things along those lines? Or have you kind of, just moved on?
No, I keep up with most of it. I mean, since I've ended my career, I've promoted 3 events, or no, 4 events with high limit,
Yep.
uh, Lakeside and Red Dirt. Um, so I'm still invested, right? I still pay attention to what how things are going, and of course, I still keep in contact with several people that are out there amongst the groups, and um, well, like I said, I'm disappointed that those purses weren't around when I was racing, but it's exciting to see the sprint car racing, the world thriving, and whether it's one series or two, I still feel like things are working out well. And from the outside looking in, I know that there's things that happen that we don't hear about or see about, but from the outside looking in, the sprint car world's in good shape.
I agree with you 100% on that, Shane. Um, Talking about, well, first of all, I was going to say, now that you're the promoter, now you don't have to worry about those purses. Now you're making the big bucks as the promoter.
Now I'm nervous about paying them.
um, you made the investment, you and Jen and Mr. Rudine obviously helped you out, but talk about, obviously 2020, I believe, was your first year. Is that correct or not? Um,
Correct.
2020. You're a new promoter walking into this game. You understand micro sprints. I think that's what you guys have the majority of there, and maybe some midgets and
Right.
quarter midgets. But you gotta herd all these cats together and make this show flow out, make the pay work, get all the sponsors lined up. You got to put on a whole brand new hat. Tell me about the first year as a promoter for Shane and Jen Stewart.
Well, so we're getting ready to be year 5, 6. I can't even keep track. So, kidding aside, I tell people I don't know if I'm smarter or dumber going into each year. I don't know which one it is, but it is it's an evolving world. On this side of it's definitely a lot more work than it was being a race car driver, right? Because I can't just show up with my helmet bag and do our job and then walk away. But so when I bought my track, I couldn't even start my grader. Had no idea. And it's an old school grader, right? So it's like a mid 80s, and it's got the knobs. And um, I was fortunate to inherit a well known micro track. I mean, it's famous around the country. It's one of the top 3, top 4 micro tracks around. So I inherited a great place. It was ran by some individuals that did it the right way. They're business owners. Um, I had a great teacher on the grading side and learning the track side. I inherited a lot of great employees. There's almost 40 of us that make Port City work on a race night. And I tell people all the time, we have a great team. They all do their jobs. They do them well. We have hiccups from time to time, but when you talk to other track owners and kind of see what they deal with on a daily basis, especially when they run weekly like we do, we all have battles that nobody knows about. And but I can tell you, it's a full time job to maintain a racetrack, and especially if you want the place to look nice, to present itself the right way for your sponsors. We've been fortunate. We've been on a streaming since I've owned the track, and we don't take that lightly, right? Like whether it's cleaning our concrete in the infield, or cleaning all of our signs that we have lining the racetrack so they present themselves the right way on TV. And we take pride in that at Port City. And but it's I if somebody was to grade me, I'm a C minus on the promoting side. I'm obviously still learning it, but it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get sponsors. It's a lot of work to keep them. We have 5 classes that run weekly there, and we average 120 something cars. And I mean, it's a big deal on a Saturday night for us. And but it's been very educational. Now that I've dipped my toes into the insurance world, when I'm all said and done, I'm probably going to have I'll be a bald headed something. But I'm going to know every aspect of this business. And
Are you going to have a shoebox full of cash buried somewhere in the backyard like Earl always did?
I hope so. I hope so. I can't say that my track Eldora money, but it does okay.
No, that yeah, and that was no comparison. I was just saying is all those promoters and here's the thing too. I want to make sure everybody's clear on this. Promoting isn't an easy job, and it is not a just a instant cash income deal. It's tough to break even these days. It's tough to make a profit. So I was not implying that the cash just automatically started rolling in. You work to get what you get at the end. So
Yeah,
just so
absolutely.
everybody's clear on that.
Every
But
promoter's the same. Like we all work hard, especially the ones that actually care and take pride in their facilities. It's a lot of work.
you've built your brand at your racetrack. Port City has come a long ways, I would say, in the 6 years that you guys have had it. A lot of work behind the scenes. Probably, getting the sponsors lined up is probably your biggest challenge to help keep that thing afloat.
Yeah.
Talk about the challenges of that just real quick. And are you out
Well,
feeding it around, or do you have somebody that's in place to help you get that kind of stuff?
no, it's just Jen and I. I had a couple of track guys. I inherited one track guy that helped me throughout the week, and he ended up retiring on me. And then I inherited another guy, and unfortunately, he ended up passing away on me last year from a heart attack. And so I had to like literally reprogram because I would grade the track, and then I would just sneak away, and then I had people that would maintain it for me. And even on race days. And then when I didn't have that, my plate went to being full to overflowing. There again, when you have a good team and one person goes away, you don't realize how important that one person is until they're gone. So now, pretty much this entire 3/4 of last year, I did everything. And I'm fortunate. My track's small, right? I'm a true 8th mile, so I can grade my track, I can water it, I can till it, I can do all that myself. I'm not a half mile where you have to have a plethora of people to jump in water trucks and graders and do all that. I can do everything myself, but it's just a lot of work. And so that part of it, I think has been the hardest because here's the thing. You can have the nicest facility, the best food, the nicest suites. But if your track isn't very good and the racing's not very good, that's all they care about. That's all they remember, right? The
Exactly.
girls, the girls will come back and tell you, "Man, your restrooms are clean. They're nice." But the people there that's racing, they don't think about anything other than how the track is and how well it raced. So that's been a big education for me to learn that side of it. And being in Oklahoma, we got wind and humidity and no humidity and rain, and every night's different. Nope, I
Tornadoes.
yeah, tornadoes. Yeah, they're like, "Do you take notes?" And I'm like, "Buddy, no." I literally get up in the morning, I look at my phone, I look at the humidity and temperature, and that kind of dictates, where how much water we're going to put on the racetrack, and that's kind of how I've learned it. And I still screw it up all the time. We have good tracks and bad tracks, and I feel like that's the hardest part about being a track owner is the track side. because it dictates your whole night. If people leave there with a little bit of dirt in their beer or on their in their water and they see a good race, they don't care about anything else but that.
You're exactly right. One other thing about the racetrack, from what I understand, and we talked just a little bit about it at the very beginning, but the general manager, you get to work side by side with your wife pretty much year round. Unless I'm missing something, this is your guys' baby and you're in it together. How cool is it to get to go to work with your wife every day?
Listen, it's good days and bad days. There's been times where she's wanted to kill me and wring my neck. But on the other side of it, my family's there. So I have two nephews that race there weekly. So my dad, my brother, my mom's always there. And then obviously having Jen by my side has been really cool. And we have learned so much about this side of what we do in the racing world. And no, like I told Jen, no matter what, we've learned how to run a business. We've learned how to manage people. We've learned all these things that we didn't really know nothing about prior to owning a racetrack, and that stuff we'll take to our graves. And but it's been a lot of fun working with Jen, and trust me, there's been a few times where we've both left the track and we're like, we could sell this place for a pit pass. And so it has its good days and bad days, but I'm fortunate to have a good wife that understands it and works hard and has been by my side since we met.
You've got a couple young kids now. I'm sure that's one thing I don't know. I don't have any notes on your children. I don't know how young they are, but are we going to see any of them making some laps at the Port City Raceway?
Oh, it's funny. So Lane Nixon's 10, and Lane just turned 6. We just bought Lane a cage kart, and they have a indoor series. It's like 8 or 9 weekends in Shawnee, which is just right up the road from me. And we're getting ready to make our debut this weekend for Thanksgiving weekend. So fingers crossed it goes okay. I think Lane's probably going to be a pretty good race car driver. You never know, but that's all he talks about, and that's all he's infatuated with all types of racing, whether it's F1 or sprint cars. And of course, he knows all the drivers and he knows most of the rules at Port City. And but the poor kid is doomed. I think that's all he knows is racing. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But yeah, we're excited to get Lane going and see what we can do with him.
Well, who knows? With Lane, you might still get to race for those big old sprint car purses someday.
True, that's true. Very
How cool
true.
would it be a car owner winning that purse?
No, I just want to be the dad that just walks up and says, "Good Bob, good job,
Yeah,
Lane."
yeah, boy, you made some good money there.
Right, that's right.
That's awesome. Shane, first of all, I want to apologize. People probably won't realize it if I can get this edited halfway decent, but for putting up with my technical difficulties, man, that was yeah, the fat kid here was stressed out a little bit. But thanks for putting up with me, and thanks for taking just a little time out of your busy schedule to visit with us and talk a little bit about the past and some of those cool stories that you had going on.
Well, buddy, we've been friends for a long time, right? We've known
We
each other.
absolutely have, and that's cool that we don't talk as much as we used to. Heck, I remember when I was riding around back on the SCN little red Pee Wee motors. Yeah, it's been a lot of history and a lot of fun. And when I started actually looking into your stuff, it was pretty cool. I forgot about the 4M and the
Right.
1HD. The obvious one that I could never forget was the 57 Rockstar car. You
Right.
and Paul, you guys just dominated with that thing, and that was a lot of fun. And it's cool to look back and see the success of the person you're about to visit with, because sometimes as time passes, you forget that
Yeah.
these guys were all damn good racers back in the day
Right.
too.
Yeah,
So
I was fortunate to see Steve Kinser's career end and see Kyle Larson's career start. I mean, there's just several. David Gravel. I watched him groom to be the driver he is today, and same with Brad Sweet, and yeah, we, the and our buddy Paul. McMahon will tell you, like, we don't miss a lot of it, but what we do miss is the people.
Yeah,
And that's the best part, that we can still remain buddies and talk and chat about things like this. But no, I appreciate you having me on your show. And like I said, I'm a fan of it. And thank you very much.
absolutely. Have yourself a great Thanksgiving, Shane. And you know what? Maybe we'll get you back on here again sometime down the road. We'll find some cool subject to talk about where we can break it down and be those personal experts that everybody should be listening to and tell everybody how they should have done
That's right.
it. All right. Thanks again, Shane. Have a good holiday.
Thank you. Appreciate it,
Yep.
buddy.
All right, so that was some cool stuff and awesome time getting to visit with Shane Stewart today. Learned a lot about him. I knew a lot of stuff, but I was able to learn some stuff too, which is always great when you have a super good guest on like Shane was. Once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I know we got Thanksgiving coming up this week, so I hope you all have a great holiday. Watch some football, eat a lot of food, and have a good week. Hopefully, we'll be back. Well, I know we'll be back next week with another guest. Just want to remind you, give me a follow, give me a like, give me a subscribe if you get an opportunity. And also just wanted to point out, if you noticed, if you happen to watch the video, yes, I did have to switch to AirPods during the middle of the show over my regular setup. Those are the technical difficulties I was having, but we're able to get it resolved. So thanks for sticking around. Hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. See you right back here next week. See you later, everybody.